Dr. George Giannakopoulos has been a neurosurgeon at HCA's Bayonet Point Hospital for 29 years.
I love Bayonet Point. It's my home.
While he says it's painful for him to come forward, he says he has evidence that HCA, the nation's largest for-profit hospital chain, is putting profits over patients.
Have lives been lost, in your opinion, due to the behavior of HCA?
Absolutely, yes.
That's a very serious allegation.
It sure is.
But since the pandemic, he says, HCA has been cutting staff and corners. For example, firing the anesthesiology team and replacing them with what he says are generally less competent people, leading to many errors, including one of his patients waking up during brain surgery.
The patient was on head pins, which are very sharp instruments that put into the skull.
To hold the head steady?
To hold the head steady. And I was just shaving the head when the patient tried to get up. So you can imagine that could have been tragic.
At an emergency meeting with hospital leadership in December 2021, according to 4 doctors who were present, more than a dozen surgeons expressed widespread concern.
I asked the question, do you feel this hospital is safe? And it was a unanimous vote from the surgeons that it was not. Then I asked him another question. Is the hospital dangerous? And that was, again, a unanimous vote that the hospital was dangerous.
As with the intensive care unit, documents from state regulators show an insufficient number of nurses. 2 doctors told us they believe such staffing issues led to the unnecessary death of a man who came in with a headache, later diagnosed as an aneurysm. Unattended by nurses, he died before he could be operated on.
When we look at the notes, there was absolutely not a single nursing note for 12 hours. This should not happen.
Neither the hospital nor HCA would agree to an interview, but they told us they take quality issues very seriously, that the hospital is appropriately staffed for the safety of patients, and that they are continually looking for ways to improve. But photographs provided to NBC News by doctors there tell a different story, showing a shocking lack of cleanliness, from leaks in the ceiling, bloody and backed up sinks, to...
There have been many sightings of cockroaches. One of the cockroaches was alive, coming out of a tray that was presented to us from the sterile processing department.
And the problems are not just at Bayonet. According to the most recent federal data, 70% of HCA's 37 rated hospitals in Florida have a below-average rating. It's not that HCA doesn't have money to address the issues.
HCA has generated $16.4 billion in profits over the last 3 years. And its CEO has received $78 million in compensation during that period.
I don't have a problem with a good business making profits and prospering. But when patients are dying because of your policies, I get a huge problem with that.
As Dr. Giannakopoulos has grown increasingly disturbed and vocal, he says HCA has retaliated against him. For example, the hospital's medical staff elected him their chief for the 10th time last fall. But the hospital's board refused to recognize the results, telling us Dr. Giannakopoulos' behavior at work was inappropriate and unprofessional. Dr. Giannakopoulos claims the hospital elevated their retaliation last month when they cut the number of hours he can operate.
They took my room away about January 17th. They only gave me between 7:30 and 11 o'clock, which really, for all practical purposes, to limit my ability to practice.
How hard a decision was it for you to sit down and talk to us? I mean, are you prepared for what might come as a result of this interview?
I'm not so sure what's going to happen from now on, but the damage is already done. They took me off as chief of staff, duly elected. They tried to berate me to my colleagues. I'm a neurosurgeon. I will survive. But what really bothers me the most, I care about what's going to happen to Bayonet Point and the patients that are there.
If someone at home right now, about to be admitted to Bayonet Point, what would you say to them?
There are other choices. Go somewhere else.
Cynthia is joining us now. Cynthia, does Dr. Giannakopoulos still work at that hospital? He talked about being more limited. Is he still an employee?
Well, he is still doing surgery there, at least as of 2 hours ago. They have not forced him out or succeeded in shutting him up, but they're certainly doing their best, he says, to try to do that. As for the hospital, they say they have not retaliated against Dr. Giannakopoulos. But, you know, Hallie, we have heard from hundreds of people over the last 24 hours since we put the story on yesterday on Nightly News, people all over the country from HCA hospitals who say very similar things.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.